Good evening, everybody. I'm just a simple man and your new No DQ Predictions League champion, as well as No DQ NXT League champ. And my name is Noah. And welcome once again to another episode of 205 Live Matters, where this week we will be discussing the Cruiserweight Championship match from WrestleMania and my disdain for it. The Cruiserweight Championship match featured on this week's episode of 205 Live, as well as on this week's show. And some after topics, of course, in simple stances. But before all that, allow me to introduce you to my guest tonight, returning veteran of 205 Live Matters. I might as well just call him my co-host. He's a respectable man. He's a family man. He is the holiday, Mr. Chris Mace. Chris, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm all right. Glad to see you doing good, sir, and glad to have you back on the show. Always a pleasure.
Good to be back.
Yeah. All right, so... it's weird. We've had the episode, of course, but we also had the Cruiserweight title match, and I feel like both matches should be compared with each other. So I'm going to go a little out of order here. We're not going to go right into WrestleMania first. We're going to talk about this week's episode because I feel like we should compare both championship matches because, in my opinion, one delivered much more than the other.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. So this week's episode is episode number 124, of course, occurring from Brooklyn, New York, for 205 Live. And it didn't start off with the typical shtick usually of Drake Maverick introducing tonight's show and the main event. It started off actually with a video package recapping the Cruiserweight title match from WrestleMania kickoff show. Why the fuck did it open the kickoff show? I mean, it wasn't even an hour in the kickoff show. I understand you put it on the kickoff show, but you couldn't put this after the two stupid pointless Battle Royale or the freaking less than 7-minute Raw Tag Team title match. That was absolute bullshit. And don't get me started on the freaking U.S. title match between Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe. Less than a fucking minute? Are you kidding me? It should have freaking opened the show. Now, truth be told, you got to move with the Universal title, but that's just because Brock is impatient, and we all knew Brock was not going to wait till the end of the night. But you had 16 damn matches on that card. At least 2 of those, in my opinion, could have gone on the kickoff show in place of the Cruiserweight title match, and you could have given all that time to those 2 matches to the Cruiserweight title match, the match that truly mattered. But I digress. Chris,
feel better now?
That before I... yeah, ranting. I ranted. Sue me. Hey, you may be hearing this from a 205 Live guy, but don't forget, I beat everybody else's predictions. So suck on that.
Yep, you're the double champion.
Damn right. Anyway, sorry about that. Not really. So, going back to the show. Basically, after that, they get the recap, talk about how Tony thinks Buddy was overconfident going into the match, and Buddy talks about how Tony will be great after my time, but this is my time because you can't stop getting stoppable. And then they give you some brief highlights. Oh, how ironic. No interruption during these highlights. But basically give you a brief highlights. Tony wins the title, and they say he's worked in this now for the past 15 years, and they also recap all the way back from him being in the Cruiserweight Classic to where he is now. And we get into the show. Again, congratulations, Tony, is becoming the new Cruiserweight champion and breaking the stigma that we always have felt about kickoff doesn't matter. But in my opinion, your moment deserved more than the kickoff. But again, congratulations. All right. So we get right into our first match, which is Jack Gallagher with, of course, Drew Gulak. We're better. 205 Live, one of my personal favorites. On commentary versus Humberto Carrillo. Once again, further extending that storyline about teaching Carrillo about being safe and sound feet on the ground. And, of course, Jack being tutelaged by Drew Gulak about how Drew's way seems to be the right way. Chris, what were your thoughts on this match and any takeaways you have from it?
I thought it was an interesting match. I liked the dynamic and the storytelling, teacher and student having the gentleman trying to teach him how to teach him a lesson, stuff like that, working in the match with him and stuff like that. And I like how Drew Gulak's commentary during the match, he's getting all upset and mad about what Alberto's doing. He's getting upset. And he gets at the end where he's going up top the rope and he pushes him down. But what I really liked was after the match, okay? So he's beating down Alberto, and all of a sudden he's trying to tell him, this is what I'm trying to teach you, and smacking him around. And then he goes for his hand again, and the gentleman grabs his hand. Then he gives him a wicked headbutt. I said, that's very interesting. Like I said, the person that was probably just staying in the middle of it is now having to choose what side he wants to be on with this whole debate, this teacher versus student right now. I think it's an interesting dynamic there, an interesting storyline so far.
Exactly. In my opinion, this match was more about furthering a story versus giving you like a 5-star barn burner, because it wasn't 5 stars to me. It was probably a little above average, if that. No, you know what?
Yeah.
This was average to me. It was like 3, because again, this was about Drew saying his way is the best for 205 Live. Look at what it's done to Jack Gallagher. Humberto Carrillo need to listen to me. But I mean, in this match, Jack Gallagher and Humberto Carrillo, they really, I think, really had a nice match. They felt each other out in the very beginning with some wrist controls, and there were some arm drags. I liked the way they were bridging with each other with a test of strength and control with pins and bridge ups. It was very interesting in the very beginning. But then, to Drew's credit about how dangerous it is to go to the top ropes, eventually Humberto Carrillo, he goes to the top rope while maintaining wrist control on Jack, but it looks like he is unable to catch his balance. Jack capitalizes, hangs him out to dry. From there, Jack controlled most of the match. It wasn't until Humberto Carrillo basically pulled off a little bit of offense and a side dropkick, vicious side dropkick to the head, that looked like Humberto Carrillo had the match more in his favor. Then, of course, Humberto Carrillo, he goes over the top after a high cross body attempt earlier, and Drew, he stands up looking at this like, because, again, this is what Drew stands against. And, again, and in English, Nigel putting over on commentary, versing each other, but not so much making it about themselves, making it more about the story of the match and Drew's stand on 205 Live. How Drew basically says he's not trying to change him, he's trying to mold him into something better. And then, of course, they also talk about the shakeup, too, and how all this could be affected via the shakeup. Like, Drew may not be here, Humberto may not be here. But we'll go into that later, more deeply. But anyway, getting back into the match, following this, there was top rope drop kick to the side of the head, like I said. Then there was an exchange between them. There was forearms, there was kicks and strikes. And then we get a nice, unique move by Humberto Carrillo. Handstand springboard arm drag to Jack Gallagher. Got some nice distance on that. And then Drew yells at him to go for the cover, which, of course, you know, Drew once again saying that Humberto needs to listen to me. Humberto not really listening. And again, he goes to the top rope, forget what he calls his finisher, and Drew, this is when Drew is just fed up because he's standing up most of the time. He goes, and like he says, causes the DQ. He pushes Carrillo off the top rope and basically gives him a lesson or a reminder, beats him down, be like, this is a ground and pound. You need to listen. You need to learn your lesson. And as you said, when he was going to fall up after Humberto Carrillo was going to get up, what happens? Jack Gallagher, not smiling, not necessarily a face turn, but he stops the aftermath attack of Drew Gulak with the gentleman's headbutt, I like to call it. And we just see Drew going off by himself with the Carrillo. He's confused, but Jack Gallagher, he still has that look in his face. Crowd seems to be now more in favor of him. And we don't know where this stands. So now we don't know what we're going to get from here. Are we going to get Humberto Carrillo versus Drew Gulak? Are we going to get Jack Gallagher versus Drew Gulak? As a reminder, are we going to get like some sort of mediation session backstage or post-match interview next week regarding the events that occurred tonight? It's very interesting to say the least. But again, to me, this match built more story than action. I enjoyed it.
And I'm wondering if we're going to get a triple threat match out of this maybe later down the road, too.
Now, that would be interesting considering Drew being the teacher. If he wins that, he basically would prove his point, being both a high flyer and someone that seemed to have been led by his tutelage, but is thinking, maybe second-guessing himself. If Jack wins that, though, then maybe it goes back to the fact that I've surpassed you, or my way was right all along. Unless he just like some higher offense, maybe influenced by Humberto Carrillo. And then if Humberto Carrillo wins that, then I can see Humberto Carrillo basically saying, look, I took a chance with you. I respect you for trying to give me this lesson, but again, you realize my detail and style is fine. Case in point, I beat you. So that would be a very interesting dynamic to end this overall story. But again, due to this whole shakeup thing next week, who knows where we're going to go from here.
Yeah.
So following that, we go basically into two little, I guess you could call them promos. We first get Buddy Murphy taping up his wrist, preparing for his Cruiserweight Championship rematch. And he basically says that I asked for the challenge, Tony Nese. You know what? I got it. You gave it to me. So congratulations. You stopped the unstoppable. But now, I am going to get my title back tonight and prove why I am the greatest cruiserweight of all time. Immediately following this, we go straight into the locker room where Tony Nese, looking down at his title, shining it up real nice, saying that basically WrestleMania was the greatest day of my life. And my whole family saw me finally achieve the goal I've been working over 15 years for and fought over a decade. And I'm proud to be a fighting champion. But if Buddy Murphy is going to take this from me 2 days, nah, not going to happen. And tonight, I once again prove that I can stop the unstoppable. So then following that, we get a couple of vignettes, WrestleMania, and then we get more talk about the shakeup, how anything can happen next week between SmackDown Live, Raw, NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live. For all we know, we might lose some of our time for 205 Live. We also might gain some too. And that has to be wearing on the mind of, segue, Drake Maverick, the 205 Live general manager. We go straight into Drake Maverick's office, and we first find him talking with Oney Lorcan. He basically praises Oney and thinks he's going to do incredible on 205 Live. And then we start talking about next week, only for Cedric to come into play, basically talk about, well, I figured you were talking with Oney about our rematch, so I figured I'd come in here and save your meeting. Drake confirms it. Next week, we're getting the rematch, Oney Lorcan versus Alexander. But before we close, Oney says, you realize why I came back, right? You told me one day that this division would belong to me. But then we get a call back to another great of the industry, Ric Flair, because Oney says, hey, to be the man, you gotta beat the man, which of course yields out a woo from the audience.
Yep.
Following this, Cedric, man, a few words, he just says, bring it on. And that's it. So we got a little bit of an idea behind the Cruiserweight title match tonight, how both contenders feel, and we also now have an idea what to look forward to next week, but how we might be seeing a changing of the guard, supposedly. Because again, Cedric Alexander's been on here since the inaugural episode. He's one of the originals. So Chris, what are your thoughts on the 3 promos we have, and what are your thoughts overall on Cedric Alexander's future?
Well, like I said, it just made you more excited for the rematch between Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese, and they're pretty much ready to go to war for the main event. And then when you talk about Lorcan and Cedric Alexander, like I said, I've been wanting to see that rematch, like I said, because Cedric Alexander, he barely beat him. He had to hold his tights to hit the lumbar check on him to beat him, if you remember correctly, in the tournament. So
Right.
I want to see a rematch. I have a feeling if he tries to do that again, I want to know if Cedric Alexander is going to finally turn heel next week against Lorcan. Is he going to have to go to some tactics to beat him? Because he barely was able to beat him the last time.
True. And Cedric Alexander is one of the people on 205 Live that has not changed his character since the very first episode. Again, he's been on since the very first episode. He truly is the heart and soul now, since Mustafa Ali is up on the main roster. Yes, his name's Mustafa Ali. Fuck you, Vince. But I digress. I hate fucking shortened names. It's the stupidest damn idea ever. Andrade Cien, how fucking hard is it to say that? His name's Andrade Cien. Respect the man and his full name. What's next? They're going to call Buddy Murphy just Murphy? God.
Or Buddy.
That would be even stupider. Anyway, surprised I'm sure Braun Strowman's named LeBron, but going off topic. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because, yeah, he's really at the heart and soul of 205 Live. I can't imagine him, well, based on the current circumstances of mainstream, maybe he could go to SmackDown Live and, I don't know, maybe against Kofi? Be a possibility.
That'd be an interesting matchup there.
Yeah. There's so much possibilities now, which we'll get into shortly. So anyway, following this, we get basically we're going into the match now. And they also talk about why Drake Maverick made this match. Because in my opinion, I was shocked that he made the rematch so soon. I knew these two men were going to face each other again. Because again, the match of WrestleMania to me under-delivered based on spot, the time they were given, and the respect it was shown, which we're going to get into shortly, ladies and gentlemen. But basically, Drake Maverick, according to Aiden English, he says he wants to close out WrestleMania Week on a high note. What's the highest possible way they can close it out? With a championship rematch based on the Cruiserweights tearing down the house. So, here we go. But before we get into this match on 205 Live, we also got to think about, we have the match with Mania. So now we can talk about this down. So before I go into either, Chris, which match out of the two was better for you? The one on the WrestleMania Kickoff Show or the one on 205 Live?
The one on 205 Live, hands down, in my opinion.
Yes, completely agree. So why don't we quickly go into the WrestleMania match, because was it brief and was it not really cared about a lot by the friggin' production value of the Kickoff Show? So here we go. Let's see. So, and I timed both matches too. So this will definitely give you an idea of which of the two brands basically respect it. And yes, I know it's self-entitled. The brand itself is 205 Live, but look at the production value. Look at how it's showcased. Think about the fact they were both on the friggin' WWE Network. Okay. So basically, kickoff match from the kickoff show. Cruiserweight title literally opened the kickoff within, I think, the first 30 minutes of the kickoff show. Basically, bell rings. We got a callback to Super Showdown with Buddy Murphy, who was champ at the time, going for the knee strike immediately. Follow up a little later. You get Tony Nese on the outside, yelling, "This is my moment!" And then we get a hand, basically after a cartwheel on the apron. Hard laugh, actually. There's let's see, there was Tony Nese hanged up on the ropes, gut first, and some point before this, I guess Buddy Murphy got cut over his left eye.
Yeah, I think it was his left eye.
Right, was bleeding. That was really weird. But then following this, we get a wrestle, and then what we get? Advertisement for the main event WrestleMania. Okay, cool. But why couldn't you do this after the match? Why can't you do this before the match? Why can you not just save it towards the very end of the kickoff show because that's the most important match on your freaking main card? Why do you have to disrespect the cruiserweights even more by putting them in a mute window on the kickoff show with a freaking advertisement? I'm surprised you didn't do Glass, some stupid-ass movie. Pathetic. And this was like 3 or 4 minutes during this 11-minute match bell to bell, too. Pissed me off. Anyway, Buddy Murphy gets a Spinal Tap kick in, short cover. Then again, we're still on the rest hold. And again, cruiserweights are not about rest holds, people. They're about giving you fast-paced action. It's a strategy. It's a chess game. This isn't mainstream Raw, SmackDown Live. 205 Live matters. It sticks out. It's supposed to be its own thing. It's supposed to be different. It felt like it blended here to me, making it seem even more relevant. But anyway, following this, there's a DDT counter into a suplex. Nese goes for his corner moonsault where Buddy Murphy's hand up in between the ropes. Rope and palm strike. Cheeky Nando's kick. And what looked like a Stormbreaker to me, Shades of Ospreay, Buddy Murphy, I'm just going to call it over and under. I don't know what else to call it, basically. I don't know if he even has a move for that. Buddy Murphy pulls off this move by dropping Tony Nese from his shoulder, corkscrewing him to the mat, face first, almost like a weird sideline flatliner, into a cover. Then the attempted pub handle driver, which is Tony Nese's finisher. Nope. But we get one of his stigmas, rolling through knee strike. And then Murphy's Law was countered into another knee strike. There's a brainbuster counter into an inverted round of the Buddy. Both men exchange kicks. Buddy eats a forearm. And then there's a wicked clothesline from Buddy to Nese. We then get a sit-down bomb kind of from Nese where he packages Buddy behind him. But then Buddy tries to roll up under through him. But Nese just sits down on him. Nothing special. Right, Nese attempt. Nope. He got out of the ring. Then we get Frostberry flop dive. And then we get 450 flash to recover. Still not enough. There's running Nese into a jumping knee strike. Murphy's Law, but he gets his foot on the bottom rope. This was the only key moment of the match that mattered to me. This was Murphy's finisher. He hit it, and somehow Tony Nese got his foot, like his toes really, on the bottom rope. Nice spot.
Right.
Probably the loudest pop of the match to them. So good on them. Oh, by the way, if they don't receive royalties and respect on the DVD for this match, then this further validates my point why I believe 205 Live matters, but they don't. God. Anyway, following this, Buddy, he attempts the running Nese personally himself, only to get caught with a super kick. Then there's a German into the turnbuckle. Running Nese, 1, 2, 3. Tony Nese achieves his moment. 15 plus years later, achieves the win on the WrestleMania kickoff show, and then immediately it's forgotten about the entire rest of the show. So before I get into tonight's match, what were your thoughts on the actual Cruiserweight title match from the WrestleMania kickoff show?
Well, if we gotta remember right, I missed the beginning because I was at work when this happened. I had to watch it back I had to watch it back to see it later on. But
Right.
What made me mad about it is that why are we doing advertisement on the main event? Why these guys are wrestling right now? This is for a championship, for the Cruiserweight title. It's a championship match. We're gonna advertise the main event. That's so nice of you. Like I said, if they had done the match tonight, that at WrestleMania, I would have been a lot happier, I believe. But like I said, it felt like they were rushing. I feel like they were trying to make them do the main roster style of wrestling than what they do on 205 Live every week, and that was just aggravating to me. Like I said, I didn't pick Nese to win. Like I said, I'm starting to become a believer in Nese now because he won the tournament. I didn't pick him to win the tournament. Didn't pick him to win the Cruiserweight title. He did it there, so I'm starting to become a believer in Tony Nese now.
Yeah, and I will say this. The only thing the kickoff did right, you actually gave us something different. You gave us, I guess, a moment in your eyes because Tony Nese did win the title. First time I can recall on the kickoff, besides the inaugural under the reinvented 205 Live brand, that the Cruiserweight title changed hands during WrestleMania. All you got to do now is figure out a way to put it on the main show, and you finally got the formula right. And also let them showcase themselves to the fullest. You cut them short. Yep. But again, congratulations, Tony Nese. Which brings us to tonight.
Yes.
Now, this is the match we should have saw on WrestleMania on the main card, and then we should see, instead of this on 205 Live, a reset, rebuilding the brand, rebuilding a new competitor to Tony Nese. But I guess they're going to say all that till after the shakeup, or maybe they'll start teasing it after next week's shakeup. We'll see. So now we get into, well, actually, before I even get into this match, because you know that last match only had maybe a quarter notes. I got like a full page of notes here for this one, because this one went 20 minutes, almost double what the freaking oh, one more thing. No advertisements, no real lame rest holds, no slowdown. Crowd was red hot. Why couldn't they do this at WrestleMania? But I digress. Before I get into this match, Chris, what are your takeaways from the match you saw tonight?
This I thought was a damn good championship match. Like I said, like I said, 205 Live's got some of the best storytelling on any of the brands. I love the storytelling here. I love Murphy, how he was selling that he was hurt. You would think for a second, oh, he really is hurt the way he buckled on his knee. It looked like he really was hurt for a minute. And he's like, okay, oh, Lord, what's going on? Was he really hurt? And he had me believing for just a second, like, wait a minute, maybe he is really hurt because they haven't done anything for a couple. And then he goes right after Nese. I love storytelling back and forth. I love how he got Nese to the outside, and he's trying to get to some spot on the table, and then the referee's looking at him. He starts counting. He's trying to pick him up. It looked like Nese to me at some point, but I was debating whether, okay, is he really selling really well, or is he trying to play possum like Murphy did earlier to him? Because then he flipped him over onto the back of the table, and he was down. And then Murphy barely got back into the ring in time. Like I said, in the ending sequence, I thought was really good. And like I said, the right man won. Nese won the match, retained the title. Like I said, I'm becoming a believer in Nese now. I never thought I would say that, but I'm becoming a believer in him now. Because I didn't pick him to win that tournament. I didn't pick him to win at WrestleMania. And he did everything. So,
yeah. So let me see here if I can break down this match. Geez. So literally before the match even begins, we get dueling chants for both men, Buddy Murphy, Tony Nese, respectively. Both men take it in because both men deserve it. So we get a filling out process a little bit. Both men, they basically are trying to test out each other for strength and control, and we get a couple of falls exchanged between both. Buddy at first gets a shoulder block into a fall, and then Tony Nese gets his almost shoulder block into a fall. Then both men trade forearms. Then we get some combination offense to another cover. Nothing special. This is just, again, just kicking off. So Buddy, this is the part you were talking about. At one point, Buddy is in the corner. Tony Nese runs after him. He goes over him, and it seems like he tweaks his right knee on the landing, okay? Everyone's worried. Tony Nese, or Buddy Murphy screaming agony. Tony Nese trying to capitalize, and the ref, Charles Robinson, says, back up, I need to check him. I'm wondering, okay, is this match going to continue? You don't want to end like this. And then they're showing a replay, and it looked nasty itself. And then a couple of minutes later, what happens? Tony Nese turns around, and the ref turns around and basically just zooms past, Buddy zooms past the ref and just launches Tony Nese shoulder first into the turnbuckle, saying, I'm fine. And I'm like, you freaking phony. Then again, to his mentality, he didn't necessarily have me believing, because I think he did try to pull something off like this similarly one other time, though I don't fully recall when, but I feel like he tried this at least one other time. But again, this, like you said, like we go later in the match, this is going to test how well both men have worked with each other and do know each other. So going from this, Buddy, he maintains control most of the match, goes into a cover, and nothing special. Then Nese gets thrown over the announce table. Ringside area came into play a lot in this match. It truly showed how far both these men were willing to go and what both these men could bring to a match and what story they could tell. Again, 205 Live, doing it right. Go figure. Anyway, following this, we get a jumping knee strike one of Buddy Murphy's specialties into a cover. Nah, nothing there. We get a nice suspended suplex into a cover. Nope. Then we get some strikes, and then Nice goes over the top, and then Buddy flies. Almost shades of Kenny Omega without the Terminator rise. And then we basically get a top rope meteor, I believe, as he goes to top rope and drops his knees onto Tony Nese for another cover. Nope. Then you figure he's going to the corner to do the tornado DDT. No, he didn't. He did like a tornado hang him out dry. I don't even know what you call that. Counter, I guess? But then Nese, out of nowhere, he comes in as Buddy Murphy goes to the top rope again. His roll through open palm strike, one of his specials, but sends Murphy straight to the floor from the top. Nasty, nasty landing. From there, he goes and capitalizes, puts him back in the ring for a cover. Still not enough. Then we get basically a leg drop, which I thought was really unique, like a jump leg drop. Still not enough. Then before he could go to cover, Buddy Murphy goes outside. Then Tony Nese follows up with one of his favorite signatures, the Frostberry flop dive, where he literally just flies over the top rope, turning his body in midair. Very impressive. If only pole vaulters could do that without the pole vault, I bet there'd be a lot more medals in the Olympic Games. Anyway, this was a nice moment, too, because the crowd, first time in this match, they really got behind it as they chanted 205, 205. Freaking loved that. Tony Nese showing off a bunch of aggression. He sends Buddy then over the table, literally propels him over the table, doesn't even touch the table, and goes into the barricade. And then moving on from there, we get a top rope Rana into a cover. Still not enough. And then we go to the other side of the ring. Buddy Murphy gets tied on the ropes, gets a kick for his troubles. And Tony Nese, he goes once again for that springboard moonsault between the ropes. Cover, still not enough. But then the crowd got really behind us. And this is what I keep stressing. It's not entertainment. It's not sports entertainment. It's wrestling. What did the crowd chant? This is wrestling. And yes, it was. It was textbook wrestling as both men go counter for counter, power for power, move for move, trying to figure out each other while telling the story of who's the better man, who could outdo the other, what's going to be the finishing blow. Brooklyn, you rock. You know how wrestling works. You know when wrestling happens. Good on you. And then we get what I think was kind of a botch. Maybe he just missed it. I don't know. They said that Tony Nese kind of got him with a kick. I think he just grazed him, actually. I don't even know if he caught him with a kick. It feels like he just slapped his leg and didn't even touch him during that spot. And then Tony Nese goes for the pump handle driver, his signature, nails it, cover, still not enough. And then we get Tony Nese caught in the corner, and Buddy Murphy goes in, pulls his head between his legs, cheeky Nando's kick, shades of Will Ospreay, into a running sit-out powerbomb into a cover, high angle. Nope, still not enough. And then he grabs his arms like, this is enough. This has to end. He goes for his knee strike. Tony Nese catches his knee. And then we get a counter into a vicious strike by Tony Nese that puts Buddy Murphy into the corner, set up for Tony Nese's finisher that ended the reign of Buddy Murphy WrestleMania, the running knees. He goes for it. Nope, it gets countered. We get a running, jumping knee strike eventually, as both men are on the apron, do get it off for control. Buddy, though, gets the better of it. He goes in and gets a running, jumping knee strike off the apron. He goes to the floor, sends Tony Nese hard to the floor. At this point, like you said, Tony Nese seemed like he's completely out. He can't continue. What are you going to do from here? And then there's a near, basically, from this, Buddy Murphy, he looks over at the table while acknowledging the ref's count, and like, I got to end this. I got to finish you. So it looks like he's going for an attempted powerbomb through the announce table, but Tony Nese, he's dead weight, it seems. He just lays on the ground. The ref comes out, like, can you continue? And at this point, Buddy's like, go back in the ring and count. So following this, he goes for the powerbomb again, and he acknowledges the count Buddy Murphy does, goes back in the ring, breaks it up, count starts over. And as it looks like he was going to hit it, what happens, Tony Nese? Hey, I know you as well as you know me. Fake out. He launches Buddy Murphy over the announce table, but Buddy Murphy's back catches the back edge of the announce table. Ouch.
That looked like it hurt.
Yeah, that looked like it sucked. Table didn't break, but it looked like it sucked. Basically, after that, Tony Nese gets to the ring. We get a near count out. I did not want this thing to end in a count out. So this almost caught me because he got in the ring at like 9 3/4. And then both men are literally crawling to each other. So following this, both men, they slowly get up. We share some combination offense, kicks, forearms, strikes. There was a jumping knee. There was attempted knee strike, kip up, kick, and then we get a super kick from Tony Nese, who then runs into a wicked clothesline from Buddy Murphy. And then we get that other alternative finisher from Buddy Murphy that I'm just going to call over and under. He sits on his shoulder. Of course, he down to the mat face first, covers him 1, 2, not quite. He immediately follows up on this with his finisher, though, Murphy's Law. That's like, that's it. Transitional champion. Damn it. But at least this match delivered 1, 2. No. He kicked out of it again. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, wow. And then following this, we get 205, 205, 205 chance. Freaking love that. And then following this, we get a couple of knee strikes. Buddy Murphy is just infuriated. Doesn't know what to do at this point. Doesn't know what's going to take to beat this guy and get his title back. So he delivers a couple of knee strikes. Looks like he's going to go for a third. And what happens to Tony Nese pops up out of nowhere. Inverted Rana that places Buddy Murphy into the corner. Needs to wear this. He goes for the running knees, hits it, but he did not go for the cover. He wanted to make sure there was no doubt and that this was done once for all and that he proved he was the better man. He goes once again for the right knees, but this time a jumping, exposed, running knee strike into the corner, nails Buddy, pulls him into the cover. 20 minutes later, 1, 2, 3. Wow. What a way to finish out WrestleMania week, and what a Cruiserweight title match that should have been delivered at WrestleMania.
Yes.
But then again, you wait for something better, and it happened tonight. What an incredible match. And then following this, Buddy Murphy, he seems to be in disbelief, but he mutually just goes out of the ring, walks out, and I think there's mutual respect shown as he turns back to the ring with an awkward look. But then as the credit, the logo comes into play and it fades away. Tony Nese looks back at Murphy. I think it's safe to say both men mutually respect each other. Now the brand is in Tony Nese's hands. Woo!
Yep.
Chris, your thoughts on this match and basically the end, I think, of this story.
Like I said, damn sure a hell of a lot better match than it was at WrestleMania. Like I said, they delivered a great match. Like I said, I love the storytelling. I said, everybody's been saying, if you're not watching 205 Live, you are missing some great action, great storytelling. That's a big key to me is storytelling, and these guys deliver on all aspects of that. And like I said, I love the storytelling. I like at the end of the match, like I said, you see Murphy just looking on. You can see as the credits or the thing starting to end, you see Tony just looking back, like mutual respect they had for each other. Like I said, they performed. I'm ready to see who's going to be the next one to challenge Tony Nese now. Let's see how far he can go with this title now. Let's see how far he can do it.
Right, and now we got an idea what's next for Buddy Murphy at the time of this recording because we got an exclusive from the Velveteen Dream backstage at WrestleMania talking about, hey, champ, where's your title? It looks like Buddy Murphy, he might be going to NXT, or this just might be another one of those things about worlds colliding because it looks like Buddy Murphy may face Velveteen Dream for the North American Championship. Now, that would be an interesting affair right there.
That would be an interesting affair.
So I hope that match does get made official, and if I were to pick a winner for that, let's see. Velveteen Dream just defended his title successfully against Matt Riddle at NXT TakeOver New York. Great match, by the way. Probably Matt Riddle's best match so far on the NXT banner. I really don't see Velveteen Dream being a transitional champion. I see him still holding that title a little longer. I'm going with Dream for the win, if that match happens.
I would go with Dream, too, for the win.
Right. So, yeah, I thought, once again, a very nice episode and follow-up to WrestleMania weekend, and a great way to close out WrestleMania weekend overall, because this really was it. This was the last show of the entire post-WrestleMania weekend. We finally got through it. Oof, good God. Finally can rest after this. I'm not doing anything for tomorrow but sleeping. But anyway, if I were to grade this show based on the matches, the storytelling, and what to expect next, this show was really good to me. I feel like, again, the only thing that fell maybe slightly odd is the finish of the first match. But again, it was telling more of a story than action. And you can't argue with the Cruiserweight title match we got in the end. Brief show, but you didn't really get a lot of really anything else known. I mean, there wasn't really like any talk about exposure akin about anybody else on the 205 banner. But this was a great show overall. 4.5 out of 5 for me for this show. How would you grade this show out of 5?
That's the same thing I was going to say, 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, the first match, like I said, it wasn't as long of a match. But like I said, the storytelling, like I said, it's continuing the story. It's making it be really interesting story, how this is going to play out with these three gentlemen. And like I said, the main event delivered. Like I said, this should have been the match we got at WrestleMania. They should have not been on no freaking pre-show. They should have been on the main card, period.
Yeah, and if you're going to relegate it to the pre-show, why'd you do it at the very beginning? Last year you said it for the very end. You're telling me you put it at the very beginning with an advertisement interruption? Are you fucking kidding me? Pathetic. Anyway, that's done. Good riddance. Great follow-up. Drake, thank you. All right. So let's go into now some simple stances. And I think we'll just keep it simple and brief tonight because, again, this is literally the reset. If you look at Drake Maverick's tweet, what is this? Day 2 or something like that? I wonder if he's just going to do that every day. But this is literally the reset now of 205 Live. I know I said a few weeks ago after the tournament concluded that started the reset. And truth be told, it did because look who's now holding the brand at the top now, Tony Nese. But now truly are going to reset as we have the Superstar shakeup just literally less than a week away. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens. But you suggested something that's also very interesting. That would be an interesting shakeup too. So, Chris, open up simple stances with your topic for tonight. What's on your mind?
My topic would be what we about to say, talking about bringing 205 Live to national TV on a cable network, national TV, getting a broader audience. We talk about how 205 Live people pretty much are watching on just the network. My idea for that would be, I thought about it when I was thinking about it more after I brought it up. I was thinking more along the lines, USA is losing SmackDown. So let's think about it. They're losing SmackDown. They're going to go to Fox. We don't know if SmackDown's going to be live when they go to Fox or if they're going to be taped. If they're going to be taped, they can still do 205 Live at tapings, but then you're gonna have that void on Tuesdays. Why not put 205 Live for an hour? You can do an hour show on 205 Live on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock, and replace the SmackDown that you lose on the USA Network. That would be an interesting idea. They could get more national exposure that way, and they could give a chance and let's run with the ball. Give them a year. Try to give the 205 Live a year on a major network, and let's see how they do. Let's see how their ratings go. I bet they'd be a lot better than Raw and SmackDown. I guarantee you that one.
Well, it comes down, like you said, to exposure. I mean, it's like we all been saying that we felt the Cruiserweight division and 205 have been hurting ever since they've been kind of excluded since Monday Night Raw. But Monday Night Raw has been hurting in general just forever. So going back to your point, I do like the idea of them being on national network for a couple reasons, and here's why. I think about back to 2006. They tried to bring back a product of ECW, but they tried to make it more like WWE, current Raw, and SmackDown back then. Bad idea, because everyone remember what the original ECW was. They did get them on a major network, though, Sci-Fi. Truth be told, SmackDown Live at one point, it was on SmackDown, it was on Sci-Fi as well, on Thursday. So with everything coming up, the Fox move, AEW apparently possibly being on TBS and TNT. That is major, major, major if they pull that off. Live, too. And considering, and I read this in reports, but I hope it's wrong, that Fox may do SmackDown Live because it is their sports network, but they may do it for 3 hours. It comes down to this for me. If you're going to do SmackDown Live for 3 hours, Lord help us. You need to make sure you got enough realistic content to keep the crowd invested. Incorporate the Cruiserweights on SmackDown Live because Raw tried it and they failed miserably. Raw already does what it can with its 3-hour spots. We see what it does. And it sounds like it's not going to change anytime soon. They think that's okay because they don't care about putting butts in seats so much. They care about viewership. Viewership's been hurting, so they're hoping that improves after the shakeup. So if they were to incorporate the Cruiserweight division on SmackDown Live after the Fox move, and they fill in that extra hour with some Cruiserweight action throughout the show, I think that would help. Because I know they say they want the biggest names, but you can make these guys into big names. Think about the names that are on 205 Live since the very beginning. I think they've groomed the name themselves to be very big and well-known since the beginning. Truth be told, this weekend, Cedric Alexander, Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, Buddy Murphy, all of these are names that may not be mainstream well-known, but they really have built themselves on 205 Live. And I feel like an incorporation in SmackDown Live would not only help 205 Live, but SmackDown as well. And then there's another thing to consider, because we've always been talking about it, maybe somehow include it in NXT. If Fox really wants to bring NXT to their network, why not try and incorporate 205 Live into NXT? That way you got SmackDown Live, NXT, and 205 Live all on Fox. that's more viewership, that's more realistic wrestling, and that's more mainstream appeal for all three. We already know 205 Live, they own the network, they have their own spot on the network. They never get interrupted during the matches, there's no commercials. So truth be told, that's their biggest risk on going mainstream, whether Sci-Fi or Fox. Those are my top two in my opinion. But again, you would get that mainstream appeal. And Raw sometimes did like a collapsed version of itself, I think like 2 a.m. or at one point every week, recapping itself on USA Network. Maybe they can do something like that with 205 Live on the Fox network. Maybe not necessarily that block, but again, you give it that mainstream exposure while still keeping it on the network. But I do agree. I feel like putting it on a national network like maybe Sci-Fi, maybe Fox would be a great idea, and I hope they would keep it live. So that's
the only thing with Sci-Fi though is you gotta remember a lot of people, even like I said, in the United States, not a lot of cable companies carry Sci-Fi, so that'd be a risk of not everybody getting that show. That would be a risk though. Where USA Network, a lot of people carry USA Network in the United States, along with what was I just saying? But pretty much USA and other networks, they normally carry it in all 50 states. That's the risk you take. A lot of states don't carry the Sci-Fi network, so that'd be a risk you take.
Yeah, because you got to look at regional. And again, Fox says they're expecting an edgier product. They want the top stars. They want to bring in viewership. This is going to be on the sports network. They already want the A show NXT. Imagine if that's also boosted with 205 Live, an incorporation of 205 Live and NXT, like a Worlds Collide thing, and they turn that into a 2-hour special, along with SmackDown Live, allegedly being 3 hours, which I hope not, but on different days. That's major mainstream appeal for WWE and Fox Sports. That's 5 hours of great wrestling you could potentially build right there. So that's just my opinion. But honestly, I don't want SmackDown Live to go to 3, even if it is going to be on Fox Sports. I honestly want it to stay at 2. But I feel like the Cruiserweights should be more involved with that brand, and I would move them to Fox, too. So that's my thoughts on that. All right, so let's close out this simpler edition of Civil Stances with our main event, the Superstar Shakeup. It's going to be an international shakeup next week. So I have to imagine all 5 brands are going to be involved. We've already got teases, allegedly. To an extent, they tried, I guess, on Raw and SmackDown Live about what you could see happen on each brand. We got Lacey Evans now, who looks like she's going to feud with Becky Lynch. We have no idea where she's going. We still don't know where Ricochet and Aleister Black are going, but they're pretty much permanently set, I think, on main roster. Glad they still have the NXT logos, though. We got Braun Strowman versus Joe on SmackDown Live. And the only 205 Live really seen and mentioned about this week, besides Leo Rush being the hot guy for Last Lane, was Ali, with Mustafa Ali.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing. Mustafa Ali, when he was in that 6-man tag on SmackDown Live. Who knows? He might go to Monday Night Raw. But let's think about who can move from 205 Live, allegedly, to Raw or SmackDown Live, and who can move from Raw or SmackDown Live to 205 Live. Because I feel like that's going to have to be somehow played into this here. I feel like NXT and NXT UK, they're going to remain the same. They already pushed so many people up from NXT to the main roster. And NXT UK, I don't see them moving anybody to the main roster. I know people are talking about Pete Dunne, but I don't think Pete Dunne's leaving NXT UK, honestly. I don't think he wants to. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on who you could see transferring between 205 Live and where?
I would say Buddy Murphy. Like I said, I think he's done with Tony Nese now after tonight. So I could see Buddy Murphy going to SmackDown. Like I said, I really want to see Cedric Alexander go to SmackDown, but then at the same time, too, I want to see how him and Lorcan finish out their little feud they're having here. I'm kind of intrigued about that, unless they have the blow-off next week on 205 Live, even after the shake-up. He could get drafted to SmackDown, but then still get to have that match as a farewell match on 205 Live with Lorcan and Cedric and see how that plays out. I said I'd love to see Gulak. I don't know if I want Gulak on Raw, though. Like I said, it's hard because I don't know who I'd put on Raw. I feel like Raw wouldn't know what to do with any of them, honestly. I'm more confident with SmackDown than I am with Raw, honestly.
I think that's safe to say, regardless, NXT, NXT UK, and 205 Live, we want them to go on SmackDown Live because even though they might get, lost, at least you probably would see them more and they'd probably be better utilized and it wouldn't be necessarily jobbed out. I feel like the only crash and burn SmackDown Live has done with that is Sanity, which is why I feel like Sanity should be split between 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. You could send Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane to NXT UK. You could send Eric Young potentially to 205 Live, and Nikki Cross. Oh God, just put Nikki Cross back on NXT. You're not doing anything with her. Honest to God, I'm just saying. That'd be what I would do. But yeah, you brought up some key names there. Again, really the biggest names on currently 205 Live, in my opinion. Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, because they are really the guys that have been carrying the brand since day one. But then I think about some of the others on there, maybe like some interesting changes. D. Brian Kendrick, for example. I know he was formerly Cruiserweight champion. He had the short run feud with TJP on Monday Night Raw. But maybe D. Brian Kendrick can somehow go into like a mid-range feud with Finn Balor for the Intercontinental title. And don't get me wrong, I don't want people to just be, just descended and relegated only to 205 Live, despite Drake Maverick trying to bring us the best cruiserweight action every week, which he does. And if there's one change I hope that never happens right now, I do not want Drake Maverick not to be the general manager of 205 Live. But apparently, he's been cast into another mainstream role on Monday Night or whatever. He's been now the manager for EC3, according to what I've read. So maybe now they'll finally do something with EC3. Even though EC3 is already a great talker and a great wrestler, we can only hope. But Cedric Alexander, if I were to move him, I'm thinking about like Apollo Crews, for example, and the great matches he and him could have. But they haven't done much with Apollo Crews since they let him get beat by Baron Corbin. Blah. So if I were to move Cedric, if I would move Cedric, that would actually be a great feud, I think, for the WWE Championship. If built right, Cedric Alexander versus Kofi Kingston, if Kofi, remains champ for a long period of time. But then I think about the new Daniel Bryan, who I'm sure is going to get some rematch at some point. We don't know what's going to happen to him. Is he going to move back to Monday Night Raw? There's your feud potentially with him. The new Daniel Bryan versus Drew Gulak. That'd be a very interesting, I feel like, more mat-based match. Because when I think about Drew Gulak, I think about him going one of two things: mat-relegated matches or a manager role. Because honestly, I can see Drew Gulak being the general manager of Monday Night Raw at this point. He's that good. And then you said Buddy Murphy. Jeez. I honestly could see him going to NXT and continuing this feud with Velveteen Dream, because I really feel like they're going to do Velveteen Dream versus Buddy Murphy for the North American Championship. And by some weird occurrence that Buddy Murphy gets the North American title, Velveteen Dream can go after Johnny Gargano on the NXT title. That's just my opinion. I'm fantasy booking, though. But then I think about NXT UK and NXT, because again, if you move talent for 205 Live, you got to bring talent into it. He's trying to get the best cruiserweights possible. There have been recent signings like DJZ, former X Division champion. We don't know what's going to happen to him. He hasn't even shown up yet. We have no idea what they're going to do with Kushida. He's obviously going to have a run in NXT before anything else, but hopefully he doesn't become another Kenta or Nakamura on the main roster. So as far as NXT UK and NXT, who could go to 205 Live? As far as NXT UK, I could see them maybe bringing in Mark Andrews in a more permanent idea, or even Kenny Williams for that matter, because I don't know what's going to happen with this tag team of Kenny Williams and Amir Jordan.
Or Ligero.
Yeah, and as far as NXT, that's a little tougher because, oh boy, that goes deep. But I'm not sure anybody that could fit right now on there besides Raul Mendoza. I don't know necessarily what he's doing, but I could see them maybe forming Raul Mendoza and Roberto Carrillo as a tag team on 205 Live since they were former tag team partners. But I feel like Raul Mendoza is literally just relegated to being developmental type talent to put other talent over. And then you got Keanu Reeves that calls himself the Finest. Maybe that's a potential name that we could see try and do something with on 205 Live. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Maria Kanellis and Mike Kanellis? Could you see them move somewhere else? But it looks like, in my opinion, they're very comfortable on 205 Live, despite Drake Maverick, not giving them what they want. But they really have been able to make their voice heard, get themselves on TV, and make themselves on that roster and banner. And you know how much Maria respects it. What are your thoughts on Maria Kanellis and Mike Kanellis being moved?
Well, don't move him to SmackDown. We already saw how that went before. That didn't go very well at all to me. So if you're going to move him at this point, either move him to Raw and see what they can do there. I don't know who they would really feud with. I don't want the momentum they built getting lost to being on 3 hours of Raw, and then like I said, you're putting them against pretty much lower card guys. I want to see him continue to grow. I think they've been successful in 205, but I want to let them just stay there at that point. That's your only option. I'd rather them just stay there in 205 Live.
Yeah, I
Maybe
feel
get
like
him, maybe get him built up for a future title match with maybe Tony Nese later down the road as a possible contender.
do you think Leo Rush should continue to be the hot guy for last year? Do you think he should go back to 205 Live and potentially go after the Cruiserweight title?
I want him to do both, if you want to be honest, because Bobby Lashley needs a mouthpiece, and Leo Rush fits that perfectly. But also, he can, like I said, he's really good wrestling. So he's a really good wrestler. So I'd want to see him on 205 Live, too. And like I said, talking about exposure and everything, that would help, too, if he's the Cruiserweight champion. He's Bobby Lashley's hype man. He's got a title, like I said, but Lashley's not the Intercontinental Champion anymore either. So I don't know how that would all play out, but at least it would give the Cruiserweight title some exposure on a main brand as well.
Yeah.
But another possibility I like to see go to 205 Live, if we lose big names, somebody like a Sami Zayn, I think he might work perfectly on 205 Live.
That's actually a really interesting pick, considering that would call back to the former history potentially with Mike Kanellis and Sami Zayn. But it would actually be like a more serious taking of it, and they were both selling in the ring because both men we know would want it. And I guess Sammy really being a heel right now, I really wonder how that would play in effect too, and what face they would put him against. Maybe he would be the next one to go after Cedric Alexander. But that's an interesting choice too. I like that dynamic and idea. Oh man, the bottom line is this: we are in for, I'm sure, a bunch of real surprises and undergoings next week in the Superstar Shakeup. But I hope 205 Live does keep some of its main names since day one. In my opinion, I feel like definitely Cedric Alexander, he still truly belongs there, and Drew Gulak as well. But it's one of those things where I feel like they do need to go out and branch out themselves because I see what they can do on NXT, but I could also see potential for them on the main roster if treated right. It all comes down to booking. That's really what it comes down to.
And I got one more possibility. Like I said, I think he could finish his career how it started would be Rey Mysterio. If he is getting ready to retire or or like I said, whatever, I think he should be able to finish his career back where he originally started. Make a call back, go back to the beginning when he was a cruiserweight and go back there and help 205 Live. Let them be the one legend on the show. Because I feel like in wrestling, every show needs to have that one legend that's there. And
Right.
Rey Mysterio could be that one legend, that one big name that you also know from that, like, oh no, Rey Mysterio's on there. That could also help build exposure as well, and
As
let him put some of these guys over and have
much.
some incredible matches.
Yeah, what an amazing way to finish out his career too, as cruiserweight champion in the modern era. If that was to be like his big send off, because he says he doesn't know how much longer he's really going to be wrestling. And I feel like he's on like a lighter schedule too. Tony Nese versus Rey Mysterio for the cruiserweight title to close out Rey Mysterio's career as cruiserweight champion in the modern era, just to put that title over and put the brand over. What an incredible way to not only build the roster but send Rey home. Much better than Kurt Angle's farewell.
But even then, he doesn't have to necessarily win the title either, though. It could be, like I said, past versus present, like I said, and it could build up to a match with him and Tony Nese, and him putting over Tony Nese. You know, having Tony Nese get this incredible win over Rey Mysterio, who was one of the pioneers in the cruiserweights back in the '90s, one of those pioneers that helped build a cruiserweight division in the first place. And for Tony Nese to be able to get a win over somebody like a Rey Mysterio, that would be incredible because that man's gone on to bigger things. He's Intercontinental Champion, World Champion. That would be an incredible match right there. I'd love to see something along that lines.
Yeah, bottom line, I'm really curious to see who Drake Maverick basically has exchanged and who he gets. And we'll find out next week, Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, I think it's safe to say that that is a good way to wrap up tonight and to wrap up this long-standing WrestleMania week. Oof. So, Chris, thank you once again for being on here and talking 205 Live Matters with me. Is there anything you want to plug, and where can people find you?
Like I said, you can follow me on Facebook at Christopher Edward Mace. Like I said, support the Simple Man's channel right here. Support Aftermatch Wrestling, NoDQ.com. Like I said, you can join the Facebook group. Now I can say it because Jerry's not on this show. I can say it now and not get yelled at. But Armbar, capital ARMBAR, exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
And like I said, let's just all support each other in wrestling. Like I said, we're all wrestling fans, and at the end of the day, let's respect everybody's opinion. And like I said, let's all have a good conversation and enjoy ourselves as we watch wrestling, and hopefully we grow this wrestling community.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well said. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you all want to find me, just know this. I'm just a simple man and the current NoDQ Predictions League champion. Aha! And a lifelong fan of wrestling. So if you want to follow me, you can look me up on Twitter, nodq.com/Noah. That takes to my Twitter page. DM me, message me, chat with me, at me. I'll talk to you anything wrestling, WWE, Ring of Honor, AEW, New Japan, Impact, independent wrestling. So support your love independent wrestling, folks. Beyond, you name it. I mean, I recently started watching Oriental Wrestling Entertainment to prepare for Double or Nothing. Shout out to you guys in Team ADQ, Chris and Cindy. We'll be doing predictions on that down the line. And if you want to follow my YouTube channel, just look it up, youtube.com/users/NoahFoss210. You'll find predictions, this series, WrestleCrate unboxings, and a bunch of other independent stuff and specials. I mean, I did a live stream recently, and I did an interview with a guy leading an independent promotion here in my town. But also, of course, just keep following NoDQ.com for all latest in wrestling news, memes, rumors, polls, reviews, live chats, email pictures, and anything else under the sun related to wrestling, WWE, and slightly beyond. And as always, folks, don't forget, by the way, buy a shirt, folks. NoDQ.com/shirts. Check out the playlist on Spotify, hashtag Team NoDQ, over 5,000 songs. Check out the latest. Go give yourself an encore of the Wrestling Trivia Challenge Iron Man match between Greg Cherry and Jeff Meacham. Check out all of our latest predictions, all the latest videos. Find yourself a laugh, find a comment, talk with people. We'll talk with you. And as always, as I like to close, support your wrestling outlets for big and small. And as this gentleman here said, let's just keep growing this wrestling community together and respect one another. Simple as that. With that, I am freaking tired. Okay? And thank you once again, Chris Mace, for joining me. And thank you all for tuning in for another brief, simple, but post-WrestleMania 205 Live Match and Simple Stances. Until next week, because I am shutting down. I hope you all had a wonderful WrestleMania week and post-week. And with that, have a good night.
Have a good night, y'all.
That's a wrap.